Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's IGear Insights session. Today's topic is turning incident response into operational intelligence, where we'll walk through an automotive use case focused on improving plant floor communication through coordinated operational response. Throughout today's session, we'll discuss these overall challenges the customer was facing and the approach we took together, and then as a result, the business outcomes that were achieved. If you have any questions during the presentation, please enter it into the Q&A chat. We'll either answer it at the end if we have time or follow up with you directly afterwards. My name is Brooks Corfidge, Business Development and Integrator Program Lead here at iGear.
I'm Selena Banastor, Director of Customer Success.
I'm Sydney Wall. I'm an engineer on our customer success team.
So here's what we'll cover today. We'll begin with the customer's operational challenges, and then Celine will walk through the discovery and collaboration process, really including how we worked alongside the customer to define a standardized incident response process. Then Sydney will demonstrate how that process is overall supported through SQUEAKS. That can include responder productivity, best fit responder, guided workflows, visibility, and reporting. And then I'll wrap up things by reviewing the business outcomes and trying to tie everything together throughout the process. So let's begin with the customer challenge. So before I want to jump right into the solution, kind of when we look at the challenge the customer was having in the operational environment, we're going to touch on the customer kind of overall challenge or multiple challenges they were facing. So mind going to the next slide, Celine? In an automotive manufacturing facility, incidents can originate from really virtually anywhere across the operation. So you could see maintenance, logistics, engineering, quality, safety, and many other support functions. But these manufacturing facilities have no shortage of ways really to detect alarms, incidents, and abnormal conditions that are met. So we like to say machines detect problems, operators detect problems, but existing monitoring systems really are just detecting and sometimes displaying, but at the end of the day, they're not doing a great job of helping solve what happens in between detection and resolution. So for this customer, the challenge fell into two primary categories. First was the lack of accountability of that incident response, as I was mentioning before. So there isn't a standardized process for assigning ownership, coordinating response, or determining when an incident should be escalated. Second for them was limited operational visibility. So leadership had limited operational visibility into active incidents that were occurring, response status, and where delays were occurring again between that event detection and resolution on the shop floor. So these challenges naturally led to the question shown on the next slide. So every incident begins with an abnormal condition. Again, that could be detected by a machine sensor, sometimes by an operator, surfaced through a PLC, HMI. For them, they were using stack lights or andon displays that could show status of like red, green, or yellow. Sometimes a radio call was leveraged or a phone call. I think the key component to all of this is it wasn't consistent. It really depended on the incident type or the responder of kind of how he wanted to best address the issue. So those methods really showcase when something's happened, they don't really coordinate the response. And you'll see what I'm saying here is kind of some questions that can follow. You know, where did the actual incident originate from? How is the response coordinated? Who owns that actual incident? How quickly did the action begin? Did that responder have the right documentation? If that issue should be escalated or up to the never level of management or team lead, was it done on a timely manner? And then lastly, where was time lost is probably the biggest question. And so this customer wanted to move from their open loop communication method to a better structured response process. And that's really where SQUEAKS came in. And what we're able to do is have a respond, resolve, review process that enables teams to really coordinate effective response. So first, on the respond layer, we can send directed push notifications to mobile, devices, and we can also capture context right at that moment to make sure even when we send it to the right person or team member, they know where it's coming from and what type of incident it is. Next, helping with the resolution process, guided action really begins because we have step-by-step workflows that enable team members to work through, and we can pull in things like troubleshooting guides, PDFs, photos that help them resolve issues. And then lastly, review. Team members and management can look at the digital thread of every action that was taken to start answering that question of where the time was lost and where operational efficiencies may be able to be driven to improve on their problem resolution process. So Celine will now walk through how we collaborated with the customer to define their response process before we were configuring the solution.
Perfect. Thank you, Brooks. So in working closely with our customer on this use case, our approach was to first have joint discovery and alignment sessions with the customer, where we really got a deep understanding of the operational pain points that Brooks highlighted in the previous slides. With that, we then mapped out their workflow. So what was their existing process, as Brooks highlighted on, with using the stack lights to trigger alarms? And then what is their desired alarm response with the workflow? So where do they see this standardized process going? What are the correct actions to be taken? And who are the correct people to dispatch and receive alerts based off certain incidents? And with that, we were able to identify gaps between detection and resolution. And the key gaps that we identified was missing performance data that included data on the mean time to respond, the mean time for resolution, assignment and reassignment actions, as well as team leader notes and context of what they did along the way to resolve the issue or dispatch particular members of the team to work on the incidents. So working closely with our customer, we define success looks like where there's a standardized response, structured workflows where there's due actions, a step-by-step process of every action taken, and it has to be the same each time with each type of incident. With that, there should be also clear operational visibility where no matter where you are, you're able to see, is somebody currently working on the issue, somebody been dispatched to the issue, when did they acknowledge it? Who is working on it? What did they do to resolve it? And that should be available to you no matter where you are. It also needs to be closed loop communication. So in their environment before SQUEAKS, it was very open loop where there were a lot of questions on where is time lost or who is the owner of this. With the closed loop communication, not only with the workflows being step-by-step guidance for the team members working to resolve the incident, but also if someone doesn't respond or resolve the issue within a given amount of time, how do we make sure there's automatic escalation to where the next team leader up will be automatically notified if somebody doesn't respond or resolve the issue within that given amount of time, really enforcing that closed loop communication. And lastly, now that we'll have access to this new data on the mean time to respond, the mean time to resolve, and all of the context in between, how can we promote continuous improvement from that to reduce downtime and to ultimately reduce costs as well? So starting with improving their responder productivity, Brooks highlighted on their current process today, where a lot of times it could be where up to 4 different team leaders or team members could be involved in a particular incident to resolve it, because maybe the first team member that was dispatched to the incident doesn't have the right tools or classifications needed to resolve that issue. So they had to jump through a few hoops to get other team leaders or other team members involved to resolve the issue. What we want to do with the new capability in SQUEAKS is improve this first responder resolution time. And the way we see that is when the first responder solves the issue, there's no reassignment, there's no escalation, there's no rework or guesswork. The team leader is able to easily dispatch who is best fit to resolve this particular incident in the most effective manner. And with that, everything improves. So time is reduced, cost is reduced, and stress is also reduced. And we call that the first responder resolution. And the way we're doing this in SQUEAKS now is we're matching the incident to the best responder. So in SQUEAKS, you now have the ability to add context to your incidents. This can include the time or the shift that the incident takes place in, the location or area of the incident, the impact, the type of incident, the severity level, classifications, which these are all customizable key value pairs. So you really can filter and fine tune these incidents and add additional context as you see fit, as well as the assets. But not only can you add context to the incidents, you can also add context now to the different user profiles, as you see here on the right-hand side with the 3 responder profiles. So each user within SQUEAKS, now you can include, of course, the shift that they're working on, maybe the area or location that they're stationed in, what they're authorized in terms of impact to work on, what's their areas of expertise, or what are they qualified in, what skills do they have, and what asset experience do they have. Then based upon that, SQUEAKS has an algorithm to suggest who is the best fit responder for this particular incident. So when the team leader goes to dispatch a team member out to a particular incident, out to a certain area of the plant floor, for example, they know with the context overlap, with the qualifications required, with the asset familiarity or past success, who is best fit automatically to resolve this issue. And again, reduce the time to dispatch and reduce the time to resolve the issue because you know you're getting it into the right person's hand. Additional core capabilities that we touched on earlier, of course, with the best fit responder, there has to be structured interactive workflows that we built closely with the customers to provide step-by-step guidance to those team members as they are dispatched and are working to resolve the issue. There has to be automated escalation notifications. Maybe whoever is dispatched or maybe the dispatcher themselves didn't respond within a given amount of time. How do we make sure nothing slips through the cracks and everything is resolved within a given amount of time? And lastly, how do we provide additional context to our team members that are working to resolve the issue? How can we, based off the type of event, automatically retrieve troubleshooting guides, problem resolution text, or even videos to help them resolve issues or troubleshoot issues before they even get there? So giving them the tools they need to be successful automatically. So working closely with our customer, this was a new workflow that we came up with for them in SQUEAKS. So they have alarm detected where an operator on the production floor, let's say they need to make a maintenance call, they push the maintenance button on the stack light that's hooked to an Allen Bradley PLC, turns the stack light on, similar to their process today, but also sends a SQUEAK incident out that targets a team leader group. That team leader will then acknowledge that particular incident and then go to assign. They will use the best fit responder algorithm, now that's included in SQUEAKS, to assign who is the best fit for that particular incident based off location, area, shift, and other criteria. And then once that team member receives that assignment, we keep track of when they acknowledged it. So they said they got it. They also wanted to be able to track when they arrived to the location. So not only when they acknowledged it, but when did they actually get to the site of the incident and keep a timestamp of that for their digital trail. And lastly, any step they took in between to resolve the issue, as well as the completion of the issue and the workflow. They also wanted to separate this up for reporting purposes. So later on in this presentation, Sydney will go over some of the new out-of-the-box reporting in SQUEAKS. And some of this new capability includes the ability to segment your workflows. So instead of being able to only look at workflow states individually, you can also group workflow states. So they really wanted to break it up into these 2 segments to analyze and improve on. So the first segment is from the time the alarm is detected to the time the team leader dispatches a team member, what does that time frame look like on average? And then the second segment is going to be from the time the team member that's assigned to it claims it and acknowledges it to the time they complete it, what does that time frame look like, and how can they improve on both of those segments? So starting with their operational visibility and the new SQUEAKS Best Fit Responder, this is going to be an example or demo of what they put in store today. So here you can see we're going to focus on segment 1 of the workflow with the alarm detection through the dispatching here. So In the customer environment, they have an actual stack light. For demo purposes, we just created a virtual stack light to be able to demonstrate and simulate different incidents. On the right-hand side here, you'll see the SQUEAKS web application that's logged in with the team leader user. So anytime any of these events are triggered, they target the team leader directly, and they're able to see the context associated with that particular incident right away. So starting off, the operator out on the production floor, they go to trigger a maintenance and press the push button on the stack light. That maintenance is red and flashing on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, that team leader gets that incident that also includes classification labels. It may include problem resolution text that you see here. They're able to go in and acknowledge and timestamp when they received it. And then they're going to use that best fit responder feature to assign. So you can see here it's listing all the users in the system, the shift that's associated with the incident, what their percentage is to match based off classifications, incident types, location, assets, and maybe even the active number of incidents they're currently working on. From there, they can select the best fit responder and assign that. And you'll see on the top of the incident where that user, that team member 2, was assigned. You also see a timestamp of that in the comments of the incident, as well as on the bottom, you now have the capability within SQUEAKS to assign workflow state scales or percentages or weights for each state in the workflow. So you really can determine based off the action in the workflow or the current state that it's in, how far that incident has progressed through the workflow. So you can see at the bottom, we're at 23% once the dispatcher or the team leader assigns team member 2 to that particular incident. Now we're going to move on to the second segment of the workflow where we're seeing the team member. They're going to be out on their mobile device because they're typically out on the production floor, and they're going to be responding and acknowledging. They're going to mark when they get to the location, and then they'll ultimately clear the fault and add any additional comments that they have. So here on the left-hand side, you'll see that the maintenance button is still flashing. When the team member takes ownership of it, that automatically turns it to a solid state. So this lets their operators on the production floor that don't necessarily have a mobile device still be in the know from SQUEAKS that somebody's on their way to help resolve the issue. The team member 2 also was able to mark when they arrived to the location, adding that to the digital trail, as well as what they did to resolve the issue. So in this case, for example, they replaced the oil filter and were able to complete out this maintenance request. Once they completed it out, that automatically turned off the stack light, and that workflow is now complete. So again, everyone, whether they have a mobile device or if they're just looking at the stack light out on the production floor or and on display, they're all able to be in the know of exactly what's going on and the progress of this particular incident. And lastly, what you'll see here is that digital trail associated with each incident. So each incident, you can go to the history and turn the incident over. You're able to see which operator initiated the incident call. You're able to see which team leader acknowledged it, who they dispatched, how long it took them to respond or acknowledge, when did they arrive to the location, if it was escalated, what they did to resolve it, as well as how long it took them to complete it. And then you also have the capability to print out that report automatically from the application as well. So for example, if you have an end of shift meeting where you're reviewing all of your downtime events, you can easily print out each of the incidents that maybe took longer than expected, or just in general, if you want to review, and you're able to look into those in those end of shift meetings. But now that you have access to this whole new data set on that response gap, so what's occurring, what's your structured response, who is dispatched, what's your mean time to respond, what's your mean time for resolution, and so on and so forth, all this data is now available for you to analyze with SQUEAKS out-of-the-box reporting. So I'm going to kick it off to our customer success engineer, Sydney Wall, to review some of the out-of-box reportings that are new capabilities within SQUEAKS.
Thanks, Celine. So we've seen how these incidents work within SQUEAKS, and we've taken a look at how alarms are routed to the best fit responders and how they interact with incidents to ensure issues are resolved efficiently. And throughout that process, SQUEAKS has captured every action and every event automatically. So all of that operational data is then transformed into clear, actionable insights without having to build reports or dashboards from scratch. So out of the box, you can quickly view your current incidents to see what's open, what's unassigned, what's been escalated, how many are high, medium, and low severity, and giving you an immediate snapshot of your operation. You can also break incidents down by severity, incident type, location, classification, impact, or asset, making it easy to identify trends and opportunities for improvement. And then several key performance metrics that are included out of the box include mean time to acknowledge, mean time to assign, mean time to resolve, and first responder resolution. And then finally, you're able to analyze these trends by team, role, and shift to help better understand performance over time and identify opportunities to improve your response process. So we're going to take a look at a few of the reports included with SQUEAKS, and we're going to start with out-of-the-box reports, and then we'll see a couple custom reports tailored to metrics and information that are relevant to our use case. So the first report we're going to look at is the incident activity overview. So this report is going to provide a live view of everything happening in the operation. So we're going to start with that current activity section in the top left. You can immediately see how many incidents are open, escalated, or unassigned, along with a breakdown of those high, medium, and low severity incidents. To the right of that are several live charts showing incident volume, average open incident time, incidents by severity, and incidents by type. These are going to update automatically as these incidents are created, acknowledged, and resolved. So along the bottom, we're going to find a list of the most recent incidents that have come in, along with a couple key details, making it easy to drill into what's happening now. So within this single report, you get both a real-time view of your current operation and a high-level picture of overall incident trends. So this is going to be the user assignment system report. So this view is going to show you all of your users in your system and how many open incidents are currently assigned to each one, which allows dispatchers to see if anyone is overloaded or underutilized. And then when you click into that specific responder, it lets you drill into any of the incidents they're currently working on and see all of that important details in one place, including the status, what assignment process it's in, and any history along with that. So next is going to be this incident summary report. These reports can also all be filtered by date, so it really makes it easy to review a specific shift, day, week, or any really custom time period. So at the top, we're going to see all of those horizontal timeline views of those incidents. So each one of those bars represents a single incident, and the length of that bar shows how long it took from start to finish. And what makes this really powerful is that each of those bars are broken into colored chunks showing how much time was spent on each step of the response, whether that's waiting to be assigned, being worked on, or being resolved. So you're not just seeing that total duration, you're seeing where the time went in the process, which really makes it easy to spot things like bottlenecks, slow handoffs, or delays in that acknowledgement. Then below that, we're still going to have that detailed incident list showing that most recent activity, whether it was escalated, that incident text, the state, and those classifications as well. Now, the next couple reports we're going to look at are going to be custom reports. So the first example is this daily incident report. So at the top, we're going to see that same timeline with each of those incidents broken down by segment. So this allows you to quickly see how much time was spent in each part of the response process. So as we went over that segment 1 and segment 2, including that time to assign and time to resolution. So we're not just seeing whether they were opened or closed, we're seeing where in the process that time was mostly spent. And then below that, we're still going to have that incident list with those details as well. So this last report is going to be the weekly team member assessment, and it gives you a weekly view into how each one team member is performing, how many incidents they've handled, and how long it took them to resolve those issues. So this is really about moving from just tracking those incidents to understanding how people are doing. You can see not only the volume of things that they are responding to, but their resolution time, which helps you identify those top performers, any training needs, and the ability to balance workload a little bit better. So I'm going to hand it back over to Brooks to close us out.
Thanks, Elaine and Sydney. We've now seen the customer's challenges, how the process was designed, and how it operates in practice. So we're going to finish by looking at some of the business outcomes achieved. On the slide, you'll see kind of a high-level overview, but while organizations really measure success a little differently, the outcomes for this customer were all centered around improving the entire incident response process. So it started with standardized response workflows across departments, which led to improved ownership and accountability because every incident followed a defined process with clear responsibility and automated escalation rules if needed. The customer also established a closed-loop plant floor communication tool and greater visibility into their active incidents, allowing supervisors and production teams to understand not just that an issue existed, but really who owned it, who stood in the workflow, and really what required attention on the shop floor from a high-level overview. And finally, because all of this was captured from beginning to end, all of these different incidents occurring, they were able to gain historical reporting that identifies operational inefficiencies or opportunities for continuous improvement efforts. So really just trying to drive future response performance to reduce downtime and overall cost in the operations. So, and the final slide really is bringing this all together, where SQUEAKS helps organizations respond, resolve, and review incidents more effectively, reducing downtime, improving operational efficiency, and creating the operational insights needed to really improve the operational view that managers and team leaders are looking for day to day. So thank you all again for joining today's IGear Insights session. We'll post this recording on our website under previous webinars if you want to rewatch or share it with others. Thanks again for your participation and have a great day.